Crece la palma. Yo soy un hombre sincero, de donde crece la palma. Antes de morir me quiero echar mis versos del alma. Guantanamera, Guajira, Guantanamera.
Mi verso es de un verde claro y de un carmín encendido. Mi verso es de un verde claro y de un carmín encendido. Mi verso es un ciervo herido que busca en el monte amparo. Guantanamera, Guajira, Guantanamera. Guantanamera, Guajira, Guantanamera. Con los pobres de la tierra quiero yo mi suerte echar. Con los pobres de la tierra quiero yo mi suerte echar. El arrullo de la sierra me complace más que el mar. Guantanamera, Guajira, Guantanamera. Guantanamera, Guajira, Guantanamera. Guantanamera, Guajira, Guantanamera.
Lisbon, a perfectly delightful place to begin our journey. We only had 2 days here. Really, that's just enough time to sort of get used to the 7-hour time change. So before we knew it, we were on Song of Flower, sailing down the Tagus River from Lisbon towards the open Atlantic Ocean. I couldn't help thinking at the time that this was the same route taken by so many Portuguese explorers of old. Famous people like Prince Henry the Navigator, Diaz, and Vasco da Gama all began their explorations sailing down this very river into history. And now, here we come along, sailing down the same river. Well, I guess you could sort of classify us as explorers. After all, we're on our way to Morocco, an African country with an Arab culture that's totally foreign to us. Actually, it turned out to be a culture shock.
Esa que se
Marrakesh, a desert city 3 hours by bus southeast of Casablanca. During our 3 hours on the bus, we saw fields of wheat, herds of goats and sheep, and people with their donkeys everywhere. Practically every group we saw had at least one donkey with them. Donkeys were used for everything, hauling products and people, pulling carts and drawing water from wells. It looked like we had gone back into biblical times. We found Marrakesh to be a blend of the familiar and the exotic. It had oriental bazaars and narrow alley-sized streets, a Casbah, of course, with its high walls, and brightly clad native dancers who entertained us while we were dining. Here we're walking to the Sultan's palace. Actually, it wasn't much to see, but we did learn that a lady's standing in the Sultan's harem is determined by the size of her room. As our guide pointed out, most of the harem room sizes were just so-so. Here we're entering the town square. People were everywhere trying to sell us everything. There were trained monkeys performing, and yes, snake charmers, with dozens of cobras everywhere. Boy, I sure was careful not to back into one of these guys. We weren't leaving the land of cobras and Casbahs just yet. Upon our return to Song of Flower in Casablanca, we sailed the night and then awoke the next morning in the ancient Moroccan city of Tangier. While Kathy, Ken, and Katie finish breakfast on the fantail of Song of Flower, I'll tell you a few things I've learned about Tangier. The city, along with the Rock of Gibraltar, effectively controls all shipping in and out of the Mediterranean Sea. For that reason, the city was governed jointly by 8 European countries for 50 years, between 1906 and 1956. The city is famous for its Casbah, too, a high-walled area with dark, winding, alley-sized streets, and home to a cast of characters that includes smugglers, spies, and gangsters, and has throughout the centuries. And here we are, about to enter Tangier's famous Casbah. You might recall that Tangier was Malcolm Forbes' adopted home too. This was his residence up until his recent death. It is a military museum now. It's also where he threw that famous birthday party of his, flying Elizabeth Taylor and all those other celebrities in from all over the world. It cost the man millions of dollars, but at least he spent his money the way he wanted to before he died. Looking back, I'd have to say that's a pretty smart way to live. All in all, I was pretty impressed with Tangier. It's obvious Malcolm Forbes was too. As it approached time for us to leave the Forbes Museum and return to Song of Flower, I kept thinking about the people we had seen. They would be as strange in our city as we are in theirs. Take this man here as an example. Now anybody can tell he's a real tangerine through and through. Departing Tangier, we entered the Mediterranean and made our way north to Spain, Granada, Spain to be exact. This picturesque old city on the lee side of the snow-capped Sierra Nevadas is home to the Alhambra, a combination fortress, palace, and park which is widely regarded as the best example of medieval Arab architecture. It might interest you to know that Islam's last stand in Spain took place at the Alhambra the same year Columbus discovered America in 1492. King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella, the Spanish monarchs who captured the Alhambra and also financed the Columbus expedition, are buried here in Granada.
Granada, manola cantada en copla preciosa. No tengo otra cosa que darte que un ramo de rosas, de rosas de suave fragancia que le dieron marco a la Virgen morena. Granada.
The Alhambra was truly a magnificent structure and a great place to begin our visit to Spain. The next city we would be visiting in Spain was Barcelona, but first we were to stop at a Spanish island in the Mediterranean for a day on the beach. These are the sights and sounds that greeted us on the Spanish island of Formentera.
ese lunar que tienes, cielito lindo, junto a la boca. No se lo des a nadie, cielito lindo, que a mí me toca. Ay, 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 canta y no llores, porque cantando se alegran, cielito lindo, los corazones. De Sierra Madre abajo, cielito lindo, vienen bajando un par de ojitos negros, cielito lindo, de contrabando. Ay, 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 canta y no llores, porque cantando se alegran, cielito lindo, los corazones. De domingo a domingo, cielito lindo, te vengo a ver. ¿Cuándo será domingo, cielito lindo, para volver? Ay, 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 canta y no llores, porque cantando se alegran, cielito lindo, los corazones. Ay, 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 ay.
This haunting melody was the one we heard upon reaching the narrow street in front of the Picasso Museum. Thinking back, I realize now that this selection was most appropriate for the mentally deranged artist. Oh yeah, good. We ate lunch at this tiny sidewalk cafe next door to the museum. Fortunately for me, it seems that hamburger is a word that is understood worldwide.
A tomato on my white shirt on the inside.
And we all had a big laugh when Kathy dropped a slice of a tomato down her blouse.
That's really stupid.
You're gonna call that pigeon over here, you'll get it.
You might have noticed that Barcelona is very artsy, its taste leaning strongly towards modern art and Art Deco. We spent the rest of the day shopping in Barcelona's world-class stores, visiting the site of the '92 Olympics, and taking in an art exhibit at another museum. That evening, we left Barcelona and returned to our ship. Our next stop would be Rome, where we would be leaving Song of Flower. And like seeing Athens for the first time in 1993, I found that I really wasn't prepared for the utter majesty that was Rome. I wonder how Rome looked back in Jesus' time. I bet it was breathtaking. Here's a pretty good idea of what it looked like.